Hello everyone! Today we're diving into the darkest side of the Middle Ages, that which doesn't appear in chivalry books or legends of kings and dragons. The life of a medieval assassin may seem fascinating in movies or games, but in reality, it was miserable, dangerous, and almost always very short. Behind the fantasies of hooded men gliding through shadows, what existed was hunger, persecution, and an almost certain destiny of betrayal or execution. Because, contrary to what fiction shows, being an assassin in the Middle Ages wasn't synonymous with glory or adventure, but with misery and constant fear. So, before you settle in, leave your like on the video and subscribe to the channel. The best story channel on YouTube, but only if you really enjoy this dive into the darkest parts of the past. Now, turn off the lights. Imagine furtive footsteps in a medieval alley, and come with me to discover why being an assassin in that era was one of the worst professions someone could have. You wake to the smell of damp straw and manure. It's not Chanel perfume, but it's what you've got for today. Your bed, a pile of hay that shares space with some rats that, fortunately, already consider you part of the family. Welcome to your day as a medieval mercenary, where each dawn is a small victory against death. Your eyes open to the darkness of a hovel that would make a 50 to an apartment in Sao Paulo look like the Palace of Versailles. There are no glass windows, just openings covered with grimy cloths that let more wind through than light. The luxury of waking to an alarm clock? Replace that with the neighbor's rooster, or better yet, the back pain that never leaves you. You get up and feel every muscle protest, as if you'd done CrossFit the night before. But no, it was just another day carrying improvised armor and sleeping in fetal position to conserve heat. Your pillow? A half-moldy sack of herbs that, on lucky nights, repels insects instead of attracting them. You stretch and your head nearly touches the low ceiling of rotting wood. Your apartment is the size of a modern bathroom, but without the advantage of having a toilet. Actually, your bathroom is the world outside, shared with all the other village inhabitants. Privacy is a concept as distant as 5G internet. Around you, your only belongings, a worn sword that has seen better days, a patched shield that looks like it was chewed by a dragon, and a pair of boots already begging for retirement. There's no closet, no drawers. Everything lies scattered on the floor, as if you were eternally in the middle of moving. The faint morning light begins to seep through the wall cracks, revealing dust dancing in the air like small ghosts. In modern times, you'd call a mold specialist. Here, you call it natural decoration. Welcome to your day. It promises to be as miserable as the previous one. It's time for your morning hygiene ritual. Forget the hot shower, fluoride toothpaste, and aerosol deodorant. Your bath? It happens once a month, if you're lucky, and if the weather permits. Today isn't that day. Instead, you plunge your hands into a basin of water you collected from yesterday's rain. You splash this freezing water on your face and feel your skin shiver. Congratulations. You've just completed 90% of your medieval skincare routine. The other 10% consists of scratching your beard full of last night's food remnants. Mirrors are luxury items, so you never know exactly how you look, but judging by the glances you receive, it's nothing encouraging. Your teeth, well, what remains of them are yellowed like ancient parchment. Your toothbrush is a stick chewed on one end, and the paste is a mixture of herbs you gathered yourself. The resulting breath would repel even the hungriest of dragons, but who cares? Certainly not your fellow mercenaries, who smell equally of onion and moldy leather. A comb, that's for nobles. Your hair is tamed with your fingers, and occasionally cut with the same knife you use to eat. The result is a style that could be called Viking after an electrical storm. The women don't seem impressed, but then again, their options are limited in the medieval singles market. As for body odor, you've developed a love-hate relationship with it. It's your personal perfume, a mixture of sweat, oxidized metal, and that special touch of garlic you ate 3 days ago. In modern times, it would be grounds for a family intervention. Here, it's just another day at the office. To finish your hygiene routine, you spit on the floor, scratch intimate parts without the slightest shame, and adjust your clothes to hide stains whose origins you prefer not to remember. Ready! You're officially presentable by 13th century standards. Not even your own mother would recognize you. But that's a problem for another day. Time to dress to impress. And by impress, understand, look less miserable than yesterday. Your clothes don't come from a department store. nor were they chosen by a personal stylist. They're inheritances, not from family, but from corpses found after battles or from exchanges made with other mercenaries as desperate as you. First, the pants. Made of rough fabric that has the texture of sandpaper and the comfort of a thorn carpet. There are no elastics, so you tie a cord at the waist that serves both to keep the pants in place and as an improvised weapon in emergencies. The concept of ideal size, as distant as an iPhone. On top, a tunic that was once some definable color, but now possesses that universal tone of grimy brown. It has stains whose origin you prefer not to investigate, and some patches that would make a modern punk stylist cry with envy. Fashion comes and goes, but the disaster survivor style never goes out of fashion in the Middle Ages. To protect your neck from cold and hide suspicious scars, a scarf that also serves as a napkin, emergency bandage, and occasionally as a water filter. It's multifunctional like those telemarketing products, only less hygienic and more depressing. Your boots are a masterpiece of medieval engineering, made of leather hard enough to resist sharp stones, but flexible enough to allow you to feel every pebble through the worn soles. The calluses on your feet have already developed their own consciousness and occasionally make decisions for you, over. All this when in service, you put on your armor, a generous term to describe patched pieces of metal and boiled leather that offer the same protection that a paper napkin would offer against a bullet. It weighs as if you were carrying a teenager on your back, creaks like a horror movie door, and smells like cheese forgotten at the back of the fridge. The final touch? Your utility belt, where hang your sword, a dagger, an empty pouch, hopefully, not for long, and a water canteen that tastes like oxidized metal. Voila. You're ready to face the medieval world with all the glamour of a scarecrow in a storm. Your stomach growls like a caged animal. It's breakfast time, or what passes for it in this century. Forget gourmet coffee, whole grain bread and eggs Benedict. Your first meal of the day is a bowl of oat porridge that has the consistency of wet cement and the taste of cardboard forgotten in the rain. You eat with a wooden spoon carved by yourself, which is why it looks more like a deformed little paddle. There's no table, chairs, or placemats. You sit on the dirt floor and balance the bowl on your knees as if you were at an apocalyptic picnic. The bread that accompanies your meal would make a modern baker commit harakiri. Hard as stone, dark as night, and with more sawdust than flour. It serves both for nutrition and as a blunt weapon in emergencies. Your teeth, the few that remain, protest with each bite like protesters in a revolution. Protein? If you're lucky, maybe a tiny piece of rancid bacon or a chicken egg that was already thinking about becoming a chick. Fresh meat is for nobles and feast days. Your daily menu basically consists of things that grow from the ground or fall from trees. Drink? Water from a community well that serves both for drinking and for washing clothes and animals. On good days, you mix it with weak beer that has less alcohol than modern kombucha, but at least kills some of the parasites inhabiting your intestine. It's medicinal, you tell yourself while swallowing. Fruits and vegetables are seasonal and often wilted or partially eaten by insects. You don't discard anything. That piece of apple with larvae is just unsolicited extra protein. Food waste isn't a concept that exists when each meal is a battle against hunger. Seasonings. Salt is your only luxury, and even then used sparingly, as if it were gold dust. Pepper is something you've heard about in stories, like dragons and hot baths. Flavor comes mainly from fireplace smoke and natural mold that develops on practically everything you eat. For lunch, if there is one, you eat basically the same as breakfast, maybe with the addition of some roasted root you dug up along the way. Dinner is the culinary peak, a thin soup where some unrecognizable vegetables float and, if the gods smile, a piece of meat so small you need to look for it like a submerged treasure. Ketogenic diet, intermittent fasting, veganism, you practice, all of them simultaneously, not by choice, but by pure economic necessity. Your body is a temple, a ruined temple that survives on dubious carbohydrates and hope. Your home sweet home would make a modern real estate broker quit the profession. It's not a loft, nor a studio, not even a one-room apartment. It's literally a single room the size of a celebrity's closet, but without the designer clothes or organization. The walls are made of a dubious combination of rotting wood, mud, and what you suspect to be cow dung. Excellent thermal insulator, terrible for smell. They lean slightly, as if perpetually drunk, and on stormy nights, you pray they stay standing until dawn. The ceiling is low enough that you need to walk slightly hunched, as if always preparing to bow. It's covered with straw, and, during heavy rains, transforms your floor into a small swamp. You've strategically placed buckets, actually broken clay pots, to collect water, creating a symphony of drips that lulls your sleep. Furniture? This is a luxurious concept. You have a bed, read, pile of straw covered with rough fabric, an improvised bench made from a cut log, and a wooden box where you keep your very few belongings. Marie Kondo would be proud of your lack of material attachment, not by choice, but by necessity. Your fireplace is the center of the house, a circle of stones in the middle of the room with an improvised opening in the ceiling for smoke to escape. Improvised being the key word, since half the smoke remains inside, giving your clothes and hair that permanent smoky aroma and probably contributing to your chronic cough. The decoration consists mainly of spider webs in the corners, which you leave purposefully because spiders eat even more undesirable insects. There are also moisture stains on the walls that, with a little imagination, form artistic patterns worthy of a surrealist exhibition. Windows, unnecessary luxury. You have an opening covered with a grimy cloth that keeps out some of the elements, but invites all the street smells. And what smells are these? An aromatic mixture of open sewage, animals, tannery, and the occasional rat corpse. Privacy is a concept as strange as space travel. The walls are thin enough that you can hear your neighbor snoring, arguing, or doing activities you'd prefer not to witness acoustically. But hey, at least this makes winters less lonely. Your address isn't a street and number, but something like 3rd Hovel after the dead tree, turning right at the dung pile. Medieval GPS. And no, the mailman doesn't deliver mail, mainly because there's no mailman, mail, or, for most people, literacy. Welcome to your private castle, where the concept of renovation means pushing the wall back to vertical position after a particularly strong storm. At least it's yours, or at least until the landowner decides he needs this space for something more useful, like a new pigsty. Your iPhone alarm doesn't ring because, well, it's the Middle Ages. Instead, you wake to the first rooster of the village, which seems to take sadistic pleasure in singing exactly when you finally manage to fall asleep. It's already time to work, and your office is anywhere someone needs a man with a sword. You're a mercenary, which means your job description includes everything from guarding walls to escorting merchants through suspicious forests. Your medieval LinkedIn would have skills like good at looking intimidating, capable of sleeping standing up, and specialist in not asking unnecessary questions. Your supervisor? Whoever has enough coins to hire your services. Performance. Evaluation? Simple. If you're still alive at the end of the day, congratulations. You exceeded expectations. Career plan? Surviving enough to maybe one day own a second shirt. Work equipment? A sword that has seen better days. A patched shield that seems to have been used as a dragon snack. And occasionally, when the job is premium, a helmet that protects your skull but limits your vision to what's directly in front of you. It's like wearing blinders, only heavier and with less style. Your salary? Ah, this is the fun part. You're paid irregularly, in coins from different kingdoms, some possibly fake, or in goods like chickens, grains, or, if very lucky, a lightly used piece of clothing. Paid vacation, medical leave and dental insurance? As non-existent as unicorns. The office has its peculiarities. Your breakfast is consumed standing, usually while watching a gate or patrolling a wall. Lunch, if it happens, is eaten with one hand only, because the other needs to always be ready on the sword. Happy hour means drinking warm beer in a noisy tavern where half the patrons have thought about killing you at least once. Team meetings happen in dark alleys or tavern corners, where plans are whispered between sips of drink. PowerPoint. The maximum visual presentation you have is a drawing scribbled in the dirt with a stick, and client feedback usually comes in the form of a satisfied grunt, or in the worst case, a dagger flying in your direction. Networking is crucial in your field. You cultivate relationships with innkeepers, information source, blacksmiths, emergency repairs, and healers for when things go wrong. Your contact network is literally your safety net in a world without LinkedIn or life insurance. Overtime is guaranteed, but extra pay isn't. You work from sunrise to sunset, and sometimes through the entire night, depending on what your temporary employer demands. And complaining? That could cost not just your job, but potentially a limb or two. At the end of the day, you don't return home with the satisfaction of a job well done, but with the relief of still breathing. Your retirement fund consists of a few coins buried under your hovel's floorboards, and your long-term plan is simply not to die tomorrow. It's honest, dangerous, thankless, and poorly paid work. But hey, at least the look is good for scaring. Children, your social life is as vibrant as a funeral on a rainy day. As a mercenary, you occupy that uncomfortable space between necessary and undesirable. The village people need you for protection, but would prefer you not sit too close to them during Sunday religious service. Friends, it's a complicated concept in your field. You have professional acquaintances, other mercenaries with whom you occasionally share a drink and exaggerated stories. You treat each other with a mixture of respect and distrust, like street cats who've established a temporary truce to share the same territory. Your presence at village parties is tolerated, not celebrated. You stay in the corner, drinking your warm beer, watching the peasants dance around the bonfire. Occasionally, someone too drunk or too brave approaches to hear your stories of distant lands or imagined battles. It's the closest you come to being a local celebrity. Romance? Complicated. The village girls have been warned to keep their distance from men like you. Rootless, futureless, with nothing to offer besides dubious stories and a probable premature death. Options usually limit themselves to desperate widows or tavern girls who charge for time and pretend interest in your scars. Birthday parties don't exist in your social calendar. Actually, you're not even sure when you were born. During some particularly cold winter is as specific as you can get. Christmas present. The fact of waking up alive on December 25th is already considered an unexpected bonus. Community meals are moments of awkward silence. You sit at the end of the long table, eating your stew with a wooden spoon, while entire families squeeze together at the other end, casting distrustful glances. Children are kept away from you, as if your mercenary condition were contagious. Your reputation precedes you, often exaggerated and rarely flattering. That's the man who served the Northern Baron, they whisper. Or worse, they say he killed 10 men with his bare hands. The fact that you've never actually killed anyone is irrelevant to the rumor. In fact, it makes your life much harder, since expectations are high. Your participation in religious events is viewed with suspicion by the local priest, who always seems to give sermons about sin and eternal damnation when you're around. You stay at the back of the church near the door, partly out of humility, partly for a quick exit if necessary. Political discussions, you've learned to stay quiet. Opining about the local feudal lord, the distant king, or tax policies is a quick path to trouble. Your social motto is simple: listen much, speak little, drink moderately, and always maintain a mental escape route. In the end, your social life boils down to nights in noisy taverns, where alcohol and fatigue allow a brief sensation of belonging. You drink, listen to stories, occasionally tell one or two, carefully edited, and for a few hours, almost feel part of something. Until morning comes, and you're back to being just that mercenary. Your health plan? Try not to get hurt? Your family doctor? That lady at the end of the village who knows herbs and occasionally talks to what she claims are forest spirits. Your pharmacy? Any plant that doesn't kill you instantly when you chew it. Headache? Put on a cold compress, stream water, and pray for it to pass. Toothache? Here the options are more interesting. Endure the pain until the tooth naturally falls out, or visit the local blacksmith who, besides horseshoes, also offers dentistry services with the same pliers he uses to bend hot metal. Wounds are treated with alarming creativity. Small cuts, spider webs to stop bleeding, fractures, improvised splints and immobilization with rags, followed by weeks of pain and a promise it will heal, more or less straight. Fever, bloodletting to release bad humors, leaving you even weaker, but theoretically more balanced. Your personal first aid kit consists of a bottle of strong alcohol for drinking and disinfecting, some dubious tasting herbs you're not sure, work, and a piece of leather to bite when the pain becomes unbearable. Preventive medicine basically means avoiding places where people are coughing. Digestive problems are your daily companion, thanks to a diet composed mainly of hard bread and meat of questionable origin. Your solution? More alcohol. It works as anesthetic, disinfectant, and, in sufficient doses, makes you temporarily forget your stomach is at war with the rest of your body. Chronic diseases? You rename them as personal characteristics. That persistent cough? Just my way of clearing my throat. Joint pains? Memories of past battles. Blurred vision? I prefer not to see the world with such clarity anyway. Surgeries. are terror procedures that happen on kitchen tables. If you reach the point of needing someone to open your body to fix something, your survival chances are approximately the same as winning the modern lottery, with the difference that lotteries haven't been invented yet, so you don't even have that comparison to console yourself. Epidemics are periods of absolute panic. Without understanding of germs or contagion, you attribute diseases to malignant miasmas, or more frequently, divine punishment for some sin the village collectively committed. Your prevention strategy? Carry aromatic herbs, avoid night airs, and of course, pray a lot. What scares you most aren't battles or armed strangers. It's a cold that turns into pneumonia, a cut that gets infected, or a stomachache that doesn't go away after 3 days. In this world, a simple infected thorn can be your death sentence. And the most ironic, despite, or because of, all these questionable medical practices, you develop an impressive immune system. What doesn't kill you really does make you stronger. Mainly because the alternatives that would kill you have already done so to half the people you knew in childhood. Netflix and chill. More like, sit in silence and watch the wall until fatigue overcomes you. Entertainment in the Middle Ages is a concept as basic as your diet. You have approximately 3 options: drink, listen to stories, or sleep. Often, in that exact order. Your version of cinema is a traveling bard who appears at the local tavern every few months. He tells the same 5 stories, only changing the protagonists' names to please the local audience. You've heard them all at least 20 times, but still applaud at the end because, well, what else would you do that night? Board games exist, but they're not exactly Monopoly. You play dice made from animal bones and bet small coins or favors. The rules change depending on who's winning and how drunk everyone is. Cheating is expected and admired as long as done with sufficient creativity. Live music? A drunk peasant playing an out-of-tune flute while another rhythmically beats on a table. On special occasions, someone brings bagpipes, ensuring absolutely no one within a 2-kilometer radius can sleep. It's basically a medieval rock festival, only with less hygiene and more fights. Sports? You occasionally watch peasants chasing a greased pig through the village or participating in competitions to see who can carry the heaviest stone. On really special days, there are night tournaments, which you observe from afar, dreaming of shining armor while eating a raw onion as if it were an apple. Literature isn't exactly accessible, considering you and 95% of the population are illiterate. Even if you could read, books are rare items kept in monasteries and castles. Your literary experience is limited to admiringly looking at illuminations in sacred books when the local priest permits. Television is replaced by people watching. You sit in the village square and comment on who's passing by, inventing stories about their lives and judging their clothes. It's basically live reality show, only with less manufactured drama and more dysentery cases. Religious holidays are the entertainment calendar's highlights. Not because you're particularly devout, but because they're the only occasions when there's extra food, permitted dancing, and a legitimate excuse not to work. You await Easter with more anxiety than a modern child expects Christmas. Hobbies include carving small wooden objects with your knife, betting on cockfights, illegal in many modern places but premium entertainment in your era, and collecting interesting stories to tell in exchange for drinks. Gardening isn't a hobby, it's a survival necessity. The most sophisticated pastime within your reach is the art of storytelling. On winter nights, when darkness falls early and cold keeps everyone near the fire, stories are trading currency. You've perfected yours, adding exaggerated details and dramatic pauses at the right moments. It's not Netflix, but for a few hours, everyone forgets medieval life's misery, lost in imaginary worlds where knights always win and princesses are always rescued. The church isn't just a place you visit on Sundays. It's your existence's gravitational center. In a world where death lurks in every corner, that infected scratch, that persistent cough, that spoiled food, the promise of eternal life is the only viable retirement plan you have. You don't believe in God the same way you don't believe in rain or sun. He simply exists, as real and present as the ground under your feet. The question isn't whether he's there, but why he seems so determined to make your particular life so miserable. Must be a test, you tell yourself, or a punishment, probably a punishment. The local priest is a mixture of father figure, therapist, judge, and occasionally, your worst nightmare. He's literate, impressive, knows Latin, scary, and has a direct line to the Almighty, terrifying. You remove your hat in his presence and lower your eyes, not just out of respect, but because you fear he might see your sins as if they were listed on your forehead. Your relationship with saints is pragmatic. St. George for protection in battles, St. Barbara against storms, St. Christopher for travel. You don't venerate them so much as negotiate with them. 1 candle a week if you keep me alive, St. Sebastian. It's a good deal, believe me. The devil and his demons are as real as the corner baker. You see them in shadows at night, hear them in the wind's howl, and suspect them in every strange-looking stranger passing through the village. The forest after nightfall, their territory, that old woman who lives alone and knows herbs, obviously, has a deal with them. Superstitions govern your day more than any kingdom law. You don't start journeys on Fridays. Avoid passing under ladders, not that there are many, and make the sign of the cross when a black cat crosses your path. Not because you necessarily believe, but because, hey, why risk it? Sunday Mass is partly social obligation, partly your only guaranteed weekly entertainment. You don't understand a word of Latin, but love the incense, songs, and mainly, the chance to see everyone in the village gathered and silently judge them for their probably worse sins than yours. Sacred relics are the medieval equivalent to prescription medications. Headache? Touch a saint's bone fragment. Bad harvest? Procession with a martyr's tooth. Devastating plague? Time to bring out the piece of the true cross from the reliquary. Spiritual medicine's nuclear treatment. Pilgrimages are the era's all-inclusive vacation packages. You dream of visiting Santiago de Compostela or Jerusalem, not just for soul salvation, but because it's the only legitimate chance to see the world beyond your village without being considered a vagrant or deserter. To you, concept of hell is particularly vivid for you. It's not some abstract place. You can practically smell the sulfur and hear the damned's screams when the priest describes eternal torments. Considering you've already survived winters without heating, the eternal fire argument isn't as scary as it should be. Miracles aren't rare events you have difficulty believing in. They're occurrences you eagerly await. A good harvest after 3 years of famine. Miracle. Surviving that fever that killed half the village. Obvious miracle. That time you found a silver coin on the road. Direct intervention from St. Matthew, patron of the financially desperate. Your religiosity is a confusing mixture of official Christianity, pre-Christian superstitions that were never really abandoned, and personal beliefs based on glorious misunderstandings. You still leave a plate of milk for the little people on the solstice while reciting Our Fathers, seeing no contradiction in this. In the end, your faith isn't a matter of sophisticated theology. It's a lifeline in an unpredictable and brutal world. You don't question divine mysteries for the same reason. You don't question why the sky is blue. Some things are simply beyond your understanding, and you have more urgent problems, like what you'll eat tomorrow, for example. Politics for you is like weather for farmers, something that drastically affects your life, over which you have absolutely no control. You exist somewhere at the base of a social pyramid so rigid it would make Indian castes seem like a flexible meritocracy system. At the top, there's a king you've never seen, and probably never will. He's almost a mythological figure, like unicorns, or regular baths. You hear rumors about his decisions weeks or months after they're made, filtered through so many layers of interpretation, they might as well be invented stories. Your immediate superior is the local lord, owner of the lands where you sleep, work, and will eventually die. Your relationship with him is simple. He has all the power. You have none. He collects taxes, recruits for wars, and occasionally hangs someone to demonstrate authority. You smile, wave, and try to be as unmemorable as possible. Your participation in the democratic process? Non-existent. No one has ever asked your opinion about matters of state, war, or commerce, and no one ever will. The idea of one man, one vote would be as alien to your society as smartphones or basic hygiene. You receive political news through the local herald, a man with impressive lungs and questionable memory, who occasionally visits the village to announce new laws, taxes, or interesting executions in the nearest town. It's basically medieval Twitter, with the same factual reliability. Taxes aren't something you declare. They're something taken from you. The tax collector appears, demands a percentage of your miserable existence, grains, animals, coins, sometimes even services, and you hand it over with a forced smile. Tax evasion isn't a crime, it's suicide. Your political loyalties are geographically determined. You don't choose parties based on ideologies. You support your local lord against the next castle because, well, you live here and not there. It's as simple as rooting for a sports team, only with much bloodier consequences. Wars are something that happens to you, not something you vote for or against. One day you're trying to survive normally. The next, you're holding an improvised spear because your lord has a territorial dispute with his third cousin. Foreign policy at your level means hoping the invaders are too rushed to burn your hut. Justice is an extremely relative concept. If you offend someone powerful, you're guilty. If someone powerful offends you, you're still guilty, only of provocation. Trials are brief, often involve creative torture methods, and rarely result in acquittal for people of your social status. Your main political strategy is invisibility. You keep your head down, pay what you owe, or hide well what you evade, and avoid drawing attention. You don't dream of revolution or reform. You dream of being forgotten by the powerful. In your experience, being noticed by nobles usually precedes bad things happening to you. Weather forecast? Your aching knee is the most reliable local meteorologist. That and old Theodore, who can feel rain in his bones, and surprisingly is right more often than wrong. Weather apps are replaced by direct cloud observation, animal behavior, and that peculiar smell that precedes storms. Winter isn't just a season. It's a personal enemy with whom you wage an annual battle for survival. Without central heating, each temperature drop is a direct threat. You spend the entire autumn preparing like a modern prepper awaiting apocalypse. Only your apocalypse arrives every December, guaranteed. Your heating system consists of a fire, in the middle of the single room you call home, some rough wool blankets, and hope that your neighbors survive so you can huddle with them on particularly cold nights. Thermostat? The concept would make you cry with emotion if you knew it would exist someday. Rain isn't just an inconvenience that ruins your hairstyle. It's an entity that determines whether you eat this year. Too little rain means famine. Too much rain means ruined crops and famine. The ideal volume is so specific you've developed dozens of rituals and prayers trying to influence clouds to release exactly the right amount of water. Snow doesn't evoke images of cozy Christmas, but potentially fatal isolation. Entire villages can be incommunicado for weeks when snow blocks roads. Your food stock is constantly checked as winter advances, like a macabre math game. I have food for 30 days. Winter lasts another 60. Thunder and lightning aren't weather phenomena explainable by science. They're direct manifestations of divine wrath or, depending on your degree of superstition, Thor throwing tantrums. During electrical storms, you alternate between frantic prayers and hiding metal objects, just in case. Summer brings its own set of challenges. Without air conditioning, refrigeration, or even ice, hot days transform your hut into an oven and your food into bacterial culture experiments. Your cooling technique basically consists of staying in shade and lamenting your life choices. Extreme weather events aren't documented on Weather Channel. They're incorporated into local mythology. The Great Winter of 42, or the storm that took the church, become historical reference points, moments that divide community life into before and after. Seasonal changes aren't marked by wardrobe changes, but by community rituals and specific activities. Spring means planting and renewed hope. Autumn is frantic harvest and winter preparation. Each season brings its own set of work, dangers, and small joys. Your relationship with weather is intimate and respectful, as if it were a capricious divinity demanding constant worship. You observe the sky more frequently than anything else, looking for signs, trying to interpret clouds and wind direction. Because in your world, a misinterpretation doesn't just mean going out without an umbrella. It could mean not surviving until next spring. Free time? This concept would make you laugh until you cry if you had energy for it. In the Middle Ages, leisure isn't something you schedule between appointments. It's those brief moments when you're not actively fighting to survive, usually because you're sleeping. Your weekends are identical to weekdays, except for Sunday morning, when you drag your exhausted body to the local church. It's your only different day, and even then you probably work after Mass. That Friday afternoon feeling simply doesn't exist when all days are equally filled with toil. Religious holidays are your only genuine days off. Christmas, Easter, and the local patron saint's day transform into rare moments of collective joy. You await them anxiously like a modern child awaits the new iPhone release. Only instead of technology, You get a day without work and maybe an extra piece of bread. Hobbies are luxuries for those with spare time who aren't perpetually exhausted. The closest you have to a pastime is mending your own clothes at night while telling stories to stay awake. It's practically the medieval equivalent of watching Netflix while checking work emails. Children are the only ones who really play, and even then, only until they're old enough to work, which happens frighteningly early. Their games are simple: hide and seek, tag, and let's pretend we're not starving. Medieval Xbox. Leisure travel. This concept doesn't exist. When you travel, it's by necessity: commerce, fleeing diseases, or chasing work. Tourism would only exist in the form of religious pilgrimages, which conveniently combine spiritual devotion with the rare chance to see something beyond your village. Your idea of relaxation after a long day is sitting in front of the fireplace, if lucky enough to have one, and sitting, just sitting, doing nothing, allowing your body to recover enough to face tomorrow. Forced meditation through extreme exhaustion. Books, even if you could read, are extremely rare items reserved for monks and nobles. Your literature consists of oral stories passed from generation to generation, often distorted like a gigantic telephone game across centuries. Your version of public library is the village old man who knows all the local legends. Seasonal festivals are the medieval equivalents of major concerts and sporting events. For a few days, everyone gathers to dance, drink, compete in rustic games, and mainly forget daily misery. It's your Super Bowl, Carnival, and Rock in Rio combined into a single event, only with more fleas. Deep down, your true leisure is sleep, the only moment when you're not working, worried, or hungry. In your dreams, you can even be a noble, with clean clothes and regular meals. It's your Netflix, video game, and Instagram combined, a brief escape from reality that ends brutally with the first rooster's crow. Your smartphone? A bell you ring when there's danger. Your 5G connection? A teenage messenger who runs down the dirt road to deliver messages to the nearest village, arriving 2 days later if not eaten by wolves on the way. Welcome to medieval internet. Slow, unreliable, and occasionally fatal. Electricity is just that scary thing that comes from the skies during storms. Your nighttime lighting consists of smelly candles made from animal fat that provide approximately the same brightness as a nearly empty lighter. Reading at night? Hilarious. You can barely find your own bed in the dark. Your refrigeration system is a hole in the ground or, if rich, a cold cellar. Preserving food is a combination of art, science, and pure luck. Techniques include salting, smoking, drying, and fervently praying that meat won't kill anyone when consumed in February. Transportation is basically you and your feet. If very lucky, maybe a donkey or horse too old for the army. Cars? The closest to that is a cart that makes so much noise you can hear it coming half an hour in advance. Suspension. This word doesn't even exist yet. Medicine is based on a random combination of herbs, superstitions, and procedures that today would be considered torture. Have a headache? Probably demons. The cure may involve bloodletting, applying leeches, or drinking something that looks like, and probably is, mud. Side effects include everything from skin rashes to sudden death. Your calculator is an improvised abacus, or more commonly, your fingers. Advanced mathematics is for monks and wizards. You can count to 20 using all available extremities, and that's enough for most of your financial needs, considering you rarely possess more than 5 coins simultaneously. Long-distance communication? Letters that can take months to arrive, if they arrive. Medieval mail is as reliable as weather forecast made by a chicken. International news arrives so late you might be reacting to a war that ended 6 months ago. Digital entertainment is replaced by a local bard who knows exactly 3 chords and always sings the same stories. It's like having only 3 songs on your Spotify, and all of them are bad versions of The Ballad of the Brave Knight Who Killed the Dragon and Married the Princess. Your appliances? An iron pot over the fire, a water bucket, and a wooden spoon you carved yourself. Your washing machine is a nearby stream where you beat clothes on rocks, returning with pieces that are technically cleaner, but permanently deformed. The most advanced technology you'll encounter in your entire life is probably a windmill or a distant church clock. You observe them with the same amazement a modern man would look at a spaceship, convinced they're the pinnacle of human ingenuity. And for your era, they really are. Career plan? Your long-term professional goal is simply not to die tomorrow. The concept of career growth is as alien as interplanetary travel. You don't dream of being CEO, You dream of maybe one day owning a second shirt or a pair of boots without holes. Retirement isn't something you plan, but something that happens when your body finally gives up. Your pension fund consists of hoping your children, if they survive to adulthood, won't abandon you when you're too old to wield a sword. Medieval 401k. Your dream purchase isn't a Ferrari or mansion. It's a house with wooden floors instead of packed dirt or maybe a knife that isn't completely rusted. Your concept of luxury is so modest, it would make a modern minimalist seem extravagant. Family planning. You'll have as many children as come, hoping at least some survive childhood diseases to care for you in old age. It's a brutal, but pragmatic, retirement plan. The more descendants, the greater your chances of not dying alone in a ditch. International travel is completely out of the question, unless you're recruited for a war or crusade, which is less vacation and more march to probable death. Your geographical knowledge is so limited you firmly believe dragons inhabit map borders. Your educational aspirations are practically non-existent, considering you're illiterate and will probably remain so. The idea of career change or taking a course would be met with confused looks. You were born to hold a sword, and that's what you'll do until you can't anymore. Social mobility is as rare as unicorns. You were born a mercenary, will live as a mercenary, and die as a mercenary. The idea of improving your life basically means suffering a little less each winter, not transforming into a respectable noble or bourgeois. Your life goals are painfully basic. Survive the next winter, not lose any limbs to gangrene, maybe accumulate enough coins for a decent drink when your body finally gives up. Maslow would have to completely redesign his pyramid for your case. Happiness, for you, isn't self-realization or achieving dreams. It's simply the absence of active disaster. A day without acute pain, extreme hunger, and immediate threats to your life is practically the medieval equivalent of winning the lottery. Deep down, your greatest dream, the one you barely admit to yourself, is simply to be remembered after you're gone. Not for great deeds or riches, but just for having existed. In a world without photographs, videos, or social media, the only possible immortality is living in stories told around fires. And even that, you know, is unlikely for someone in your position. At the end of a day, as a medieval mercenary, you sit at your hovel's door, watching the sun set over the village. Your muscles ache, your stomach growls, and that persistent cough seems worse. Still, you're alive, and that, by itself, is a victory many didn't achieve today. The life you lead would be considered inhumane by modern standards. Without privacy, comfort, adequate medicine, or any guarantee of survival until next month, you exist in a perpetual state of precariousness that would make the most desperate 21st century homeless person seem privileged in comparison. And yet, amid all this misery, something remarkable happens. Small moments of joy find their way. The intense flavor of an apple stolen from an orchard. The warmth of a shared fire on a cold night. Collective laughter when the local drunk stumbles over his own feet during a festivity. Humanity persists, stubborn as weeds growing between stones. There's no Instagram to record your moments, no photo albums to flip through in old age, if you get there. Your life exists only in the present moment, and in the memories of those who share it with you. There's something strangely liberating about that. An existence without performances, without constant comparisons, without the tyranny of perpetual self-optimization. The medieval society you inhabit, with all its brutality and injustice, also carries lessons the modern world may have forgotten. Interdependence isn't a choice, but an absolute necessity. No one survives alone. The entire village mobilizes when a barn catches fire. Long-standing enemies share their last bread slice during the harshest winters. Your relationship with time is radically different. Without digital clocks marking every second, you live by the movement of sun and seasons. Dawn, noon, and nightfall are your only fixed commitments. The rest flows like a river, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, but always moving. There's no time management, just the natural rhythm of existence. Perhaps most surprising is how you find meaning in a world without modern promises of self-realization and infinite progress. Your purpose is simple. Protect those who need protection, survive one day after another, and maybe, if the gods are kind, leave some legacy, even if just a story told on a winter night. The medieval mercenary you are won't leave a mark in history books. Your name won't be remembered in epic songs or heroic poems, But your calloused hands, unshakable resistance, and ability to find humor in existence's absurdity are part of a human lineage that will eventually build cathedrals, discover vaccines, and send people to the stars. And maybe, just maybe, while you watch the last ray of sun disappear on the horizon, drinking your warm beer and hearing the distant murmur of the village preparing for night, you feel a strange connection with all who came before and all who will come after. An invisible chain of humanity, persisting through centuries, finding ways to survive, create, and even love, no matter how brutal the circumstances. Because in the end, that's what we are. Stubbornly alive, ridiculously hopeful, and incredibly adaptable. From medieval mercenary to modern executive, we continue the same journey, just with different clothes and more advanced technologies. The comedy and tragedy of human existence, unfolding through centuries, with you playing your small, but indispensable role in history's grand spectacle. Now finish your beer and go sleep. Tomorrow will be another day of struggle, pain, and with luck, some stolen moments of joy. The Middle Ages don't wait for anyone, especially philosophical mercenaries who spend too much time contemplating the stars. Did you enjoy this trip through the dark side of the Middle Ages? Then share this video with your friends and comment below. Would you have courage to live as a medieval assassin? Ring the bell and don't miss the next episodes, because we still have many dark and surprising stories to explore together.